Our next session is going to be Kim and Carrie talking about specific productivity tips from the latest release. So, Microsoft every year focuses on user interface and productivity in particular with all of their releases. Kim and Carrie have put together a collection of productivity tips that you should pay attention to that you can benefit from right away, the new release.
Welcome to Productivity Tips from the 2024 Wave 2 release with Carrie Carosa and Kim Congleton. In this session, we will be covering things around user functionality improvements, document entry, a little bit of setup with Copilot, and then some warehousing with entries and projects. First, I'd like to talk through some user functionality improvements. And what I mean by this is small tasks that users might be performing in their jobs that are just made a little bit easier with these new features. The first feature is drag and drop multiple files to attach. And you will notice as well that I have a link down at the bottom from Microsoft Learn, and I'll have this for all of my slides where you can find some additional information from Microsoft on these new features. I now have the ability to attach multiple files in the Attached Documents area. For this to work, I need to click on the Attach Files option on the action bar, and I can see that it shows to upload one or more files. When I click on that, I can grab the attachments that I need and I can drag and drop those over, and I can see that it's showing that I have 4 different attachments that I'm adding. I'll go ahead and I'll add all of those files, and I can see that those are now all attached documents. If I use just the Attach File option here, it will only allow me to attach one file at a time. You can see that I'm not able to drag and drop multiple file attachments. Nothing happens when I try to do that. So I need to make sure that I'm using the Attach Files option on the action bar. Another user improvement that I would like to cover is the ability to resize columns even when personalization isn't enabled. Now, when I first read this, I was surprised to read it because we've always had the ability to resize columns without going into personalization mode. So this is what I was thinking it was. But if I look at the screenshot from Microsoft, this helps make it a little bit clearer, and it made me understand it in a different way. If I look at the second note here, resize regardless of role, it states that even when personalization is off for a given profile, users assigned to that profile can still resize columns in lists. So what this means to me after reading that is not that we can resize columns without being in personalization mode, but if our administrator has turned off personalization or disallowed personalization for our role, we still will be able to resize those columns even though we cannot personalize the rest of our screen. There are some additional notes as well from Microsoft, but again, this is a little bit different than I originally read, and I think that this is a good improvement for any companies who have personalization turned off for roles. Next, I'd like to talk about an improvement around document entry. And note that this is for sales and receivables as well as purchase and payables. It's the ability to default a quantity of 1 on documents. And I'd like to show this with a short video. I'm on a purchase invoice and I'm entering a new line against a GL account. I'm going to enter this line against property insurance. And notice that there is no quantity, so I can fill in my quantity as 1 and my direct unit cost. There's a new setting under our purchase and payables setup, as well as sales and receivables setup, that will allow us to default in that quantity of 1. This setting is default GL account quantity, and if I read that tooltip, it specifies that the quantity will be set to 1 on lines of type GL account. I'll go ahead and toggle that on for my purchase and payables setup. Note that this would need to be done in the sales and receivables setup as well if you would like this option enabled for sales documents. Let's go back to our purchase invoice and I'll enter a new line, and I'll enter this one against rental insurances, and notice that my quantity of 1 does default in. So all I need to do as the user is enter that direct unit cost and maybe update the description. I would recommend that if you are making these setup changes for purchasing or sales, that you do notify your users that they might notice a difference in how things used to work. It's always better to notify them in advance of any setup changes that might impact them or their daily jobs. Next, I'd like to talk about one of the new Copilot features, and the feature is to suggest number series with Copilot. And I'll show a couple short videos on this, but I think the reason that I was a little bit conflicted is because usually number series is a one-time setup, and it's something that you would work with the partner on. However, I did really like this when I tested it out, so let's take a look at what it can do with some short videos. I'm on my number series page and I'm going to try out the new option with Copilot to help me generate number series. And first I need to enter my prompt. My company is going to be implementing and using reminders, so I am going to ask Copilot to generate the reminders number series for me. And I can click on generate. What I can also do is I can look at a prompt guide and I can see that I'll be able to create new number series with some prompt samples, modify existing number series, and prepare for new year with new number series. I'll go ahead and I'll generate based on my prompt. And I can see that I have 3 number series return, and 2 of them are kind of grayed out. And the reason is because those number series are already configured and it shows me the table that they're in as well. I do have 1 new number series suggested, and that is canceled issued reminders. So I can see that it is starting at 001, ending at 9999, and it will warn me at 9500 that I may be running out soon. Personally, I like a number series with a little bit more space, so I might want something with 6 digits for the number instead of 4. So what I can actually do is I can cancel out of here and I will start a new prompt. And this time I will specifically say that I want a number series with 6 numerical values. And I'll go ahead and I'll generate this again, and let's see what Copilot comes back with. Now I can see that Copilot has come back with a canceled issue reminder number series that has 6 number digits available, and that just gives me a little bit more space, so I prefer this. And all I need to do is select Keep It, and what will happen is it will create with Copilot the canceled issue reminder number series so that I can use this in my sales and receivables setup. Now if I search for reminder, I can see that I have the 2 that already existed as well as my canceled issued reminder. Next, let's check our sales and receivables setup. And if I look at the number series, I can see that Copilot has also assigned this canceled issued reminder numbers in the sales and receivables setup. I'm going to try another Copilot prompt, and I can actually prompt it from down here as well. And for this one, I am simply going to use the prompt guide, and I am going to prepare the number series for the next year. Let's go ahead and generate that and see what comes back. Now this is going to take a while because it's looking through all of your number series that exist to possibly recommend some new number series for the new year. And here I can see I have my Copilot number series suggestions. If I look through them, I can see that it seems like for 2025, a starting number of 25 is being added at the beginning of a lot of these number series. I can also see the starting date of 1/1 of 2025. Personally, I don't typically create new number series for each new year. I usually just create a number series and then continue using that number series throughout each year. But there may be certain number series that you do want identified with the year. So this is a way that you can have Copilot suggest these, and I can always delete any lines that I don't want to keep. And then I could keep the rest, and I could select Keep It for these number series to be generated, and the starting date of 1/1/2025 will take effect.
When we think about some of the productivity tips that you can use inside of BC, one of the things that comes to mind right away are the analysis views within the different screens that they've added now. So one of my favorite ones that I've been using a lot of lately is on the Bing Contents table, where you can go into that analysis view, you can prompt it with Copilot, and then take a look at your data. And I think where this makes you a little bit more productive is there's certain things you can look at just by manipulating the screen in the analysis view to get you some answers that in the past you might have had to dump a couple of tables to Excel do some lookups and pivot tables to kind of get the data you need. Now, I will say, as a little caveat, I still wish there was a couple other things that we could do with it, but I feel like some of those things might be coming soon. So let's take a look and see what we can do with analysis views and the Bing contents table. So here you can see if we go into the analysis mode and we can create a new analysis. And here I can type in that I want to summarize my items by bin and quantity. Now I'm using Kronos data, so I don't have a ton of data in there, but I can generate this and it's going to go out and create one for me. So you can see here I've got my bin codes by item. This would be really helpful if you had multiple items in a bin or multiple bins that have multiple items in them. So you can kind of use it to clean up your warehouse as well. There's all kinds of things you can do with this. It works pretty much like a pivot table. You can filter on your items. You can filter over in the columns. So it really is pretty easy to use. So think of it like creating your own sort of pivot inside of BC. So I think this is definitely one of my favorite tools that's come along. The next thing we're going to talk about is creating external notifications for failed job queue entries. This I really like, and I really like it because it's an easy way for people to get introduced to Power Automate and how you can use that with Business Central. So this process walks you through creating turn on some notifications in BC, walks you through a wizard, and then at the end of the wizard, it actually has a template for Power Automate that's super simple to do and will get you up and running in no time. So let's take a look at that. Here, the first thing we have to do is go through the setup on assisted setup. So we go into the setup job queue notifications. You can add or pick a user as the administrator. You're just going to pretty much take the defaults there. Here we are going to switch because we don't want to use the in-product notifications. We want to use the notifications with business events. So it's going to enable that so that we can get to it. So we're going to hit next. And then here we're just going to take the defaults here too. This is cool. So you click on this create automated workflow. And then when you go in here, you should see the Power Automate button here. For some reason, mine was being a little funky. So I had to actually go to the job queue entries table and then run it from there. So you can see now I have the Power Automate button. I'm going to click on Power Automate and I'm going to create an automated flow. You should see the actual template on yours. Again, I don't know what was going on with mine today, so I'm going to go ahead and create a flow. And this would be pre-filtered for you to this one or the Outlook with the job queue. And you're just going to take the defaults. So this is cool. Here I can specify the email address that I want it to go to. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine in. And then I can create my flow. And it literally is that quick. So now I can actually go over to Power Automate and manage my workflow over there. So if I wanted to get fancier, if I wanted to add in, some more functionality in there, or make it, maybe it routes to a couple people, I don't know. There's a couple of things we could do there. It really is really great that it creates this. You can see how it gets created. You can see all the pieces that go together to create this. So then you can copy and paste this one, use it as a template to build some other notifications if you'd like. So that one's really exciting for me. Page scripting. Let's talk about page scripting. And you might wonder what page scripting would have to do with productivity. What I like about page scripting is that it gives you the ability to create some tests that you can just automatically run. So here you can see we go in here, we can start a new script. You want to be careful because it actually starts you in the recording mode. So if I click on anything other than what I want to click on, here you can see it got a little confused. It kind of created 3 actions there when I really only did one thing. So if that happens, you might have to start over. But for the most part, this is pretty good. I would like the ability to kind of modify some of those or delete one of those, but it's not quite there yet. So I can start it, I can pause it while I get to where I want to actually start from. I can turn on the recorder again, I can hit customers. So now I see that it's doing the thing that I want it to do. I can select my template. I can enter my name, enter my address. What I like about this is it helps you in testing and kind of can make you more efficient when you have to go through and test functionality to make sure nothing's broken. So here I've filled out my new customer, and once I'm done, I'm going to stop the recording. So I've got everything recorded so you can see the different steps of it. So all those look good. I can go back to my main menu because here's where I would normally execute it from. I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and it's just going to walk through all of those steps, and then it will come back and tell me it's completed. It's pretty good, but like I said, there's probably a couple other things I'd like to see it do, and maybe a couple of things to fix where it'd be nice to be able to edit some of those steps in case you get one that you really don't want. Like if you click on something you didn't mean to click on, that would be nicer if you could take that step out instead of having to re-record the whole thing. Then there are some other productivity functionality that's in this release, or this release and the last one. It's kind of a combination. More than one user can post to warehouse entries at a time. This one's huge. A lot of times this could still cause some locking issues even in BC, and online, so that's kind of a good thing that's going to be prevented. Sustainability enhancements in BC. I think a lot of people keep this outside of BC. You're going to be in Excel spreadsheets and all kinds of things, or maybe even an external system. With this, you start to have the ability to do some sustainability recording inside of BC. So with the sustainability, chart of accounts, journals, all those kinds of things, it really makes it now you can be a little more productive, maybe get rid of a spreadsheet or two. Ad hoc analysis on fixed assets, projects, and services. That's kind of like that analysis mode that we showed for the bin content screen. Same thing, now we can use it on fixed assets, projects, and services. So they're putting that into more and more screens, which is really going to make it nice that you can do those things and not have to export to Excel and do a bunch of lookups. A streamlined make order process for service. So that can kind of be cumbersome sometimes, from a service quote to a service order. So now there's some enhancements and some improvements to make that a little bit more streamlined and easier to do.
So some great things from Carrie and Kim about productivity. Looks like we had just one question in the chat about Copilot integrations and whether they work with cloud solutions versus on-prem. Kim answered that question that currently those work only for Business Central Cloud. So good question there. I'll point out too that we do have the Q&A function open as well. So if you want to use the Q&A function instead of chat, you're welcome to do that. I'm monitoring both of those spots for questions. So we'll leave things open for just a bit, see if anybody has any questions about productivity tips. Kim and Carrie, what is your top productivity tips out of what was presented? What was the thing that you liked the absolute most that you're excited about?
I know mine right away is the drag and drop multiple attachments. Just because having done a lot in payables or with sales or journal entries, it's really time consuming to attach, like 50 receipts or whatever it might be. So I'm really excited for that to come out. And we did have a question as well if it works with incoming documents. So I put the link in chat, but the documentation does mention incoming documents as well. I did not personally try that out, but it does look like they are improving that as well. So that's my favorite.
Yeah, I have to admit, I think that's mine too. I just had a conversation with a customer this morning who swore up and down that Business Central couldn't store documents, and we were able to just show it to him right on the spot, which was great.
Awesome.
Kim, what about you?
I think it's gotta be, for me, I love the ad hoc analysis stuff. So the analysis mode with Copilot, I love that stuff because I've found it's super helpful, especially on some of the warehouse stuff. So I'd say that's probably gotta be my favorite one.
Yeah, and I love seeing more and more examples coming out all the time of real world use for analysis. People are getting really smart about that. And I think it was definitely an undervalued feature for quite a while until people could see more examples of how they could use that and just stay inside the application with the data that you have. The reporting inside of Business Central is improving in leaps and bounds in the last year. and just really, really cool to see those real world examples starting to come out as people start to apply it in their businesses. Looks like Greg has a question. Is it possible to use document attachments but store the attachments in SharePoint? I would say that natively, right, with the improvements that we have, no, but Eric Hogard has a SharePoint connector as a tool that he uses. And I know a couple of our customers use that with quite a bit of success. So, and that's a very simple and inexpensive add-on that Eric Hogard produces. Any other questions about productivity features? Okay, always good to see all of the different possibilities that keep coming our way with the productivity features that we see inside of Business Central.